Hi, I'm James Brookes, and welcome to From the Factory Floor, a conversational podcast about all things startup and tech, brought to you by the folks at thestartupfactory.tech. Welcome to episode 23 of From the Factory Floor. Obviously, last week we spoke to Reese from Social Plug, where he spoke about his journey and how he's got to the stage that he's got to. A slight change of plan for this week, so we were planning on speaking to Gavin. However, the startup world is fluid, as we know. And myself and Ian, my co-host, are delighted to welcome back Aleksa.
Hey,
hi Aleksa.
Good to be back.
Hi Aleksa.
We've had a bit of a hiatus, Aleksa. You managed to hide from us.
The morning after the Champions League, and I think on the one of the earlier podcasts, I described you as the Kevin De Bruyne of the tech startup world, Aleksa. So very appropriate. You're now into the semi-finals. So
yeah, absolutely. Few really. It was a close call last night, but that's why I'm so happy to be here now.
rather than that down note of a potential loss. I mean, as Burnley fans, we're used to having that, especially at the moment. So, regardless of the football, today's topic is all about the role of a CTO within a startup. So I think as a starter for 10, it's probably almost looking at the wider role of a CTO, not just in a startup. Aleksa, where do you see the responsibilities really of what a CTO actually does within a startup?
When you say a CTO, a Chief Technology Officer, first thing comes to mind is technology and code and everything related to it. But the role of CTO is much broader and it's complex. I think I would say there are kind of two types of activities that are specific for this role. One, there is an inward-facing CTO role, someone who is hands-on, responsible for designing and building the platform and the tech team and making sure that it's delivered and it does what it's supposed to do, ensuring security credentials and the regulatory requirements, anything really relevant to the core technology. On the other side, there is also the outward-looking part of the role, which is sometimes forgotten, but probably as is important, and depending on circumstances, maybe even more important. Being a strong communicator, communicating with key stakeholders on the board level, investors, but also with internal teams, sales, for example, and supporting commercial activities within the company. So I think those two would combine to make like a perfect CTO role. Although because it's so broad, it's not as easy to fit all of that into a single person. So there are different ways how to approach that.
yeah, I'm glad you've started off with that, Aleksa, because I think for me, everyone just sees the T aspects in the CTO role, and the communication and people skills and the commercial acumen you need. I mean, you've been a brilliant example to us, both on our own journeys. We've built our team, our own technology prowess, but with those startups that we've helped develop, and as they're kind of released into the wild, you've had an integral part. I mean, often I think it's really underestimate the role of the CTO, because when the startup is going for those early customers or those partnership relationships, the technology DD that the third party or investors look at, it's down to the CTO rather than the founder to actually build those credentials and give them confidence. So, yeah, it's much more a commercial CTO, really, is the aspect I'd say that a startup needs.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good name, really, commercial CTO and a technical CTO. And I think you need both. But as you say, the technical bit is always a bit more visible, and everybody thinks just about that. But there's much broader kind of responsibility there.
Yeah, and the reason I've kind of given you the Kevin De Bruyne label is that at one level you're kind of a wizard on the kind of tech challenges at strategic level, but also show an amazing helicopter thinking ability to kind of do the top stuff and then really drop down and do some coding, but great people skills as well, and again in that internal external split. So yeah, the all-rounder aspect of the experience you've garnered before you came to us, both from a technical and the commercial exposure. So I think when non-tech founders are looking for a CTO to join their team, don't just go with someone who's got great tech chops. What's their people skills? What's their commercial skills? Those are really important attributes of what makes a good startup CTO.
I agree, and I think it's from a startup perspective, you will be looking for someone to take, especially for a non-technical founder, to take that tech responsibility to build something. Hands on deck. Let's build it, and it is quite important, but it sometimes can be forgotten about these other aspects. And if you were to, it's not just about building, the product. And a lot of CTOs do come into this role from kind of tech background. They already have a passion and skills in the technology. But success of a startup and a business in general is only a part of it, is the quality of the software or the platform that they are building. It is about building the team. It is about attracting and inspiring investors and everyone else, sales teams and everyone else around the company.
So perhaps it'd be worthwhile, Alex, just spending a couple of minutes sharing with us your career path. And how those stages and the experience you've garnered along the way, because there'll be founders listening to this who'll be then interested in the lessons and learnings from yourself in terms of the sort of person they need to hire, but also maybe some senior tech people, lead engineers who are looking for that CTO step. What advice would you give to them, just drawing the analogies through your own career journey?
Yeah, my path is I think fairly typical. I'm a techie. Technology is my passion. I've been coding since the early days, really, and that's my first few roles in job market and career were starting from a developer, senior developer, consultant, or anyone else really doing the hands-on stuff. And that's where my passion is, really. And even now as a CTO, that's what I enjoy doing, although probably not as much time for it as in the past. But what I did kind of realize in the early days that technology is this big opaque things for many people. Although the techies will understand it and make it kind of an easy thing, a lot of people don't. And I've seen teams and projects with a lot of talented people not succeeding, but not because there's no talent in technology, but because there's that lack of that communication, really, to make technology actually work to what it's supposed to do. And that's where I kind of move into, being more of a kind of a team lead role and basically using my communication skill not only to inspire my fellow team members, but also engaged with other stakeholders, non-technical ones specifically, that make a big difference in success in a lot of projects. But still at the time, trying to keep that kind of tech spark, being the one that can always pick, the hardest problem or the problem that no one else wants to pick. So being the last result, but someone who can solve everything. So I think that worked well for me, because I think as a CTO, you have to build the trust of your tech team, and that's not easy. But also you have to build trust and kind of relationship with the stakeholders who are not technical, and finding that balance is very important. I was lucky to find it, and then just built on that as we went along. Tried it in big teams, small teams, larger organizations, smaller ones. But then I found, obviously, that it's kind of most impact and most interest lies in the kind of startup world, which is why I'm now talking to you and working with the Startup Factory.
I think I think the team and the inward thing is obviously one of the key things obviously that you do within the Startup Factory, in terms of, you have built the team that we currently have technically, and also how you use your communication to relay all the technical information to, people like myself and Ian who aren't technical and don't have that sort of depth of knowledge that you've got, and manage to develop and do that in a way which we can understand and then really influence the commercial discussions is key to what we do, really. So, one of the things you did mention, Aleksa, is obviously through your career, obviously you've been in both big companies and small. What's the key difference for you found when you've been in a big company to obviously the startup world?
I think that the main difference is the level of responsibility and decision making that you have in a smaller company. In a bigger company, in a bigger team, you're surrounded with people who are doing things that have the same goal as you. So you can share the decision making, you can share the hiring process, you share the technical decisions on every level. From engineer to team lead to a program manager to CTO or a larger company. There is much bigger support on every level. I think in the startup world, you start small, isn't it? So it's founder and maybe as the CTO, there's a lot of decisions to be made. There's things to be done hands-on. There's things to be done strategically. There are some things you need to do, maybe not in a perfect way, to move things forward, to realize how to approach technology, to find the right balance between the pace and speed and delivery and the quality and, everything else that comes with that, the team building. So I think that's the main difference. There is a lot more responsibility. It's much more fun, I would say. It's much more challenging as well. So it's an interesting ride.
Yeah, from a myself from a non-tech background, I think there's three things that I've observed, Aleksa, that you've done. So I think you kind of unpack the founder's thinking and help share the vision from concept to reality. So you kind of paint the picture. I think you make sure, secondly, that there's a strategic focus on where the tech needs to go. But also then, I've also noticed several times, you kind of bring them back down to earth. We don't need to be perfectionists at the moment. Let's just build something. Let's get it out there. So maintaining the technical vision, but the pragmatic stuff of where we need to be in our startup journey. And then thirdly, I think aligning the business and technology goals. And that's, I think, one of the strongest things you do, because of your strong communication skills and your experience. You can see what the founders are trying to do, what the commercial opportunity is, and what the technical solution needs to be. But you kind of create that nice arbitrage on timing, where we need to spending our effort, where our focus needs to be. So I think those are the three things for me that you've brought. And I think don't underestimate, ultimately, as you've said, the responsibility, the assumption is that we will get to where we want to get to and it'll work. And I think there's an unwritten assumption that the CTO kind of makes that happen.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think you said a few things there that resonate quite well. I think you mentioned perfectionism, and I think not only in the technology CTO world, but in startups as well. That's a very dangerous thing to have. I think perfectionism for me can be just a mask for a bit of fear of failure and feedback, really. And same goes in technology. I mean, you have to find the right balance. You said it right there. I mean, you have to have a vision. You know where you want to go. But you won't get there in 1 or 2 steps. You probably make 100. So making sure that you make those first steps the right way is very important. And again, the decision making, I think that's another thing that a lot of CTOs sometimes struggle and feel that that's kind of overwhelming. In tech company, expectation is the CTO knows where we're going to be. Honestly, we probably don't, but we have that kind of confidence in technology, in skills, in people, that we will get there, because all problems are solvable. That's my mantra. Everything can be solved. So that's why I'm not afraid to make a decision, even if sometimes they're not perfect ones, because everybody makes mistakes, and you have to just embrace that. I think hopefully you two will agree from the entrepreneurship side of things that that's how you have to be thinking and not be afraid of making some big, bold decisions.
Yeah, I think working with you, I've learned so much as well about pace and aspiration and growth and how we, what we need to do. But I kind of see, certainly in the last 12 to 18 months, you've been stretched in completely new ways. I mean, with the way we have you as our CTO for ourselves, but working with our clients, we kind of expect you to be better informed of all the latest trends and all the technologies, while you're kind of business savvy, you're understanding what we're trying to do with our own team, the founding team. We talk about front end and back end in the dev world, but you have to kind of sit across the front to back, the whole impact, being aware of what will create revenue streams, simplifying the ways of working, but at the same time, making sure it's resilient, you'll reduce the risk. I must admit, kind of looking over your shoulder at times, your day job is, I think it's really exciting, but goodness me, how you channel and how you focus as a CTO, it's just not about the tech. It's a holistic view.
No, and I think everybody needs to realize, and again, it's not specific to CTOs or technology really. One person can't do everything. That's just impossible. So what you need to do is obviously stay informed, which kind of comes with a cultural fit with the role. If you're interested in technology, you will stay informed about things. But also, I mean, I consider myself a pretty good developer even now, even though I'm not doing it hands-on for a few years. But I'm not the best. And I mean, a lot of people I work with and work with me and for me are better in many things than I am. And I rely on that, really. So I don't have to think about every single detail of every aspect of the development. I mean, keeping a big picture in your head and knowing when to step back and not to get bogged down in details is important, but it is something you learn, I think. I mean, you think about challenges, really. I've sometimes in the past been a victim of going too deep into some things that I thought were important, but maybe they weren't, simply because they were kind of close to me and my thinking. But what you just said there is I guess, it comes with experience. It comes with, working with right-minded people, and the CTO, as much as they mentor and support others in technology and how technology can make a difference, they also are mentored by people coming from a business side and learning that aspect of thinking commercially as well.
And looking for me as well, I think you look at some of the startups we have in our stable. I do think in the future the CTO becoming the CEO of some of these businesses would make sense, because it gets to a point where the business's technology is the product, and that I think really needs that clear focus. I mean, James, you've worked with all our kind of startup ventures. What do you think about that? The CTO becoming the CEO in the future?
I mean, when it comes to most CTOs, and I think Aleksa, like you say, is kind of a unicorn in some ways, just without the horn, in that not many individuals who are in tech also have the communication ability, but also have the commercial acumen to be able to look and make decisions at a high level, which aren't just about deep dive tech, wanting to work on the cool things, but looking at, like you said, what's going to bring in revenue, what's the key attributes. I think finding someone like Aleksa who can do transition from that CTO technical role with the understanding of the technical product and that commercial is almost the perfect CEO. But finding that one person to do that is often going to be one of the trickiest hiring conundrums that people have, because it is such a complex role, and having that huge skill set and the experience to know which way to go isn't something is that common, at least from sort of my experience of looking at most CTOs love the tech, and that's kind of what they want to do. The commercial side is almost leave that to the commercial managers, leave that to the current CEO, rather than necessarily going into that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't consider myself a perfect CTO in any shape or form, but I do agree with both of you that if it is, if the company is tech and the tech is the product, then there is a role for a CTO or someone with those kind of skill to lead the company overall. I think why that can be a challenge is because a lot of CTOs are coming from that path of, engineering growing up. So maybe that doesn't come naturally to them. But I think you'll also find a lot of people coming the other way, being a CEO, but running a tech company, getting so much familiar with technology that they understand it much better. So I think it is a kind of a two-way path, really. So CTO becoming a CEO, but also CEO becoming a CTO as well in a technology-driven company.
What aspects of it do you not enjoy, Aleksa? I mean, I think you're always so positive, enthusiastic. You kind of a good problem solver, good creativity, good innovation. What are the aspects of the role that I've got to dig into that today?
Well, I guess broadly than that, if you want to be in kind of leadership positions in any kind of work, you have to enjoy what you do. I mean, it can't be a job. It can't be, it's 9 o'clock, I have to go to the office. It has to have that mindset. That's kind of really important to me. So I think everything I do, I on purpose try to enjoy, because if I weren't, I wouldn't be doing it. And that's kind of the main thing, the main driver for me going forward. But if I have to pick something, I think I'm still, I'm still a techie. I still come from technology, and I'd probably rather stare at my screen and code all day than talk to people all day. I've come to peace with it, and I enjoy doing it. But obviously, sometimes you need to find an extra motivation for a long meeting or talking to people who maybe culturally are not kind of a good fit talking to you as well. So I think those things, people aspects for me have been things I have had to learn and probably can find challenging occasionally.
Yeah. No, it's good. I think it's everything's different. Every day is different. That's the attraction of kind of working in a startup. But I guess for me to summarize, if you look at this, say there are 4 stages in a startup. What's the role of the CTO in those stages? So in that first stage, when we're looking at the business idea, I think what the CTO does is kind of assess the technical feasibility. Once we're into that second stage and we're developing the MVP, the architecture, the infrastructure, that early stage stuff. Third stage, looking at product market fit. Again, this is where I come to the point earlier about, it stretches you, but, you have all this within your Kevin De Bruyne toolkit. That reaching product market fit is then about infrastructure, security, building the team, the coding culture, and then even into growth where we're still hands-on, hands-in at that kind of fourth stage. You're continuing to help develop the product vision and ensuring the kind of competitive advantage is still there with the technology vision. So any non-tech founders that kind of are thinking of doing something, those for me are the 4 stages, and that's what the CTO brings. And we'd be more than happy, anyone listening to the podcast, to come and have a chat with me and Aleksa about the profile of a CTO or indeed the kind of CTO as a service that we provide.
Yes, I think you very well summarized it there. I think what I would just maybe just add is the CTO should be able to look deep into the tech, but also be able to explain it and discuss it in a very simple terms. And that can be hard. And the better you get at it, going deep, but also staying simple, means that you do a better job.
I don't think there's anything more to add to on top of that. And I know we're getting towards the final stage. So in our usual fashion, Aleksa, if there was one piece of advice for someone who almost wanted to transition from their current role, whether that's tech or, well, mainly from the tech perspective, what would your one advice be to someone who wants to be a CTO and what they can expect?
If you're coming from a tech perspective, understand tech very well, the ability to talk about it in the simplest possible terms and be heard and understood is a huge, big step for anyone trying to step up from that kind of technical role into a CTO role.
How about you, Ian? What would your advice be? Someone who obviously has dealt more with CTOs than necessarily being one.
I think because it's such a pivotal role at day one and day 700, it's about the person. It's about the person fit to you as a founder. They're aligned to you, communication, personality, values, beliefs, cultural fit. I think it's, you can make an assessment and get some help to understand their technical ability, but the CTO is going to be your right-hand person, your go-to person. Therefore, the relationship aspect of it is key to me. Find the right person day one and you won't go wrong.
I think I'd probably echo Aleksa's sentiment of it's about the communication, the ability to communicate a very technical product to someone in the least technical way possible, both internally and externally, is just invaluable. So I think we're just about done, chaps. So I think, Ian, next week, I think we're joining Mr. Riemond in talking about a divisive figure, talking about right people, of Mr. Musk.
Yeah, we're going to kind of talk about entrepreneurial role models, role models rather than heroes. I think at my age, you kind of walk through that gate. We're using Musk as an example of what I kind of refer to as sheer bloody mindedness, which I think is around tenacity, resilience, but having a vision. Really interesting guy, really interesting backstory to what he's done. But yeah, I mean, Guy's a Tesla driver, so he's a bit of a fanboy. I can say that because he's not on this one. But yeah, we're looking at the attributes of Musk and kind of what we can take from that. So what makes a good startup founder?
Well, as long as he doesn't bring his boring company flamethrower onto the podcast, then I think we're all right. So thank you very much for your time today, Aleksa. So if anyone wants to get in contact and potentially talk about CTO as a service or the role of a CTO, what's the best way they can get hold of you?
I think just go to the thestartupfactory.tech website. There are all our contact details there. Just reach out and happy to have a chat.
Cool. And thanks again, Ian. And thank you to everyone for listening. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, chaps.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
I think that just about wraps things up here. If you have any thoughts or questions on anything we said today, get in touch, whether that be through our Twitter @RealTSF or email at hello@startupfactory.tech, or feel free to drop in for a coffee and a chat. As ever, thanks for listening.